All right, hey guys, this is Rebecca. I'm with the paint mixer, and I'm just gonna go ahead and do a little kind of how-to on mountains, things to do and things to kind of avoid. So you guys can see I've got a nice base layer down, so I'm not going straight on a white canvas. I've got a layer down, and I'm mixing up I'm using this bright purple and blue and a little bit of black just to darken it a little bit. I want my mountains to be fairly dark to start, and then I can always add white to brighten them or white to add snow. So I'm going to go ahead and put these mountains in, and this brush is also awesome. It's the flat brush, so I can use it on its edge and get a really nice line. Couple things you want to make sure you do with mountains is you want to make sure they're not super tall and pointy. And the other thing is you want to avoid the shark teeth. So that would be mountains that just are up and down like that. So if you do end up doing something like that, you can always just add mountains in over them and try to cover that area up. So by using the edge of this brush, I can get nice kind of clean lines. Okay, so I just started with 3. That's pretty simple. I'm going to go ahead and just fill them in really quick. And it doesn't really matter how I fill them in. I just want a nice kind of solid color. Then I can cover up this mistake. Okay, so once I have those kind of filled in, you'll notice I brought it a few inches down. So once I've got them kind of filled in a nice darker color, I'm just going to go ahead and grab some white. And I cleaned off my brush so I don't have any of that blue or black left in there. And I want to make sure that background layer that I started with is not completely dry. So you can see that it's still a little bit shiny, so it's a little bit wet. And the next thing I'm going to do is go in and start to add highlights or just kind of define the shape a little bit more. Because right now it's just kind of a silhouette. So you can go in and add rock formations. And you'll notice some of that blue from my first layer is picking up and kind of mixing on the canvas. And that's a good thing. If I just did white and it didn't mix at all, it would look way too bright. So having it mix on the canvas a little bit is kind of what we want. And then I'm kind of just bringing these lines out a little bit, and you just kind of make it up as you go. If you have a mountain range that you know of and you want to paint, I highly suggest getting a picture of it or pulling it up on your phone or printing it out. It really helps to have a mountain range that you have in mind, and then you can kind of, use that picture for reference, and that helps a lot. So I'm just kind of going in and adding either snow or rocks, so you can go just to the points of everything if you want to do snow. So the snow would be on the highest parts of every mountain. And this might seem really bright and really stark to start, but once we finish with this lighter layer, then you can go in and add dark back in and tone things down a little bit. But usually it's not as dramatic as you think once you step away. So I'm going to go ahead and let you guys work on that, and then I will show you how to go back in and add dark later. All right, so moving on, I've got my dark base layer. I've added in my brightest highlights or snow. And now I'm mixing up this color. So it's not as dark as my first layer and it's not as bright as my second layer. But with this kind of medium tone, I can go in and kind of soften things down a little bit. If there's any really bright spots that I don't love, I can almost just almost completely erase them with this medium color, or at least soften them a little bit so they aren't so sharp. But it just kind of adds a whole nother layer and makes these mountains look a lot more realistic, having more variety and more color. So kind of add that in where it feels good, or if you're using a picture for reference, kind of anywhere there's some nice medium tones, go ahead and throw those in there. All right, so once you have the low lights in there, like your base darker color, your highlights in there, that bright white, and then your third color in there to kind of soften things down a little bit, now's a good time to just get across the room, look at it from far away, and decide whether you like it or not. And this is not just a 1, 2, 3 process. It can be a back and forth for a long time until you get it where you want it. So don't be afraid to go back in there and add the highlights back in, add the low lights back in. It ends up being back and forth just until you get it where you want it. So don't be afraid to just keep working on it. But yeah, definitely get across the room, look at it from a bit of a distance to get a new perspective to see maybe what you need to do next. All right, have fun doing mountains.